Our next presenter is Carlin Yandel. A career in print journalism, a childhood steeped in 1960s and 70s counterculture, and a lifelong devotion to creating by hand fuse in Carlin Yandel's paintings, sculptural objects, and public artworks that question the authority of social and political divisions. Please welcome to the stage, Carlin Yandel. Thank you. This is Bette Davis in the 1940 Whodunit, The Letter. I saw this movie on Red Robinson's Classic Theatre on TV back in the 80s, and it was the first time I clued into some sort of power potential for needlework beyond pretty or cozy. Bette Davis's character is held under suspicion for murder, and we are to understand this by her fidgety, obsessive lace-making. I was transfixed by this bonus skill that defined her role. And we makers know there was no way she could have whipped up that white shroud of lies and deceit. She was clearly crocheting in the round and probably making a doily. There's an uneasy feeling embedded in those spidery doilies. Maybe they remind us of old lady living rooms, the direct opposite of our gleaming minimalist dream houses. New Yorker cartoonist Roz Chast scratches at it in Attack of the Creeping Doily. There is a delicate undermining in a doily that refuses to stay in its place. Doilies are as obsolete as the idea of furniture for life, as seen in my grandmother's lacy living rooms. The number one landfilled item from our households is furniture. Just a tiny fraction of 1% of it is recycled, leaving 10 million tons dumped every year. When you swap out your sofa and your tables and chairs every few years, the marketers have won. A major rethink is required of this view of furniture as fashion altogether. And this is not about saving money. This is about bringing consumption back to what the earth can handle. Maybe we could learn to love these furniture protectors again if they were seen in a different context. A doily out in the world has a different reading. In dodgy, graffitied spaces, it may appear as a message or a mandala. The intricate circular patterns of doilies seem to echo patterns in nature, architecture, spirituality, and industry. A few years ago, I started creating new readings for them, and an early one was the Doily Cogs painting series, where rusty, distressed doily patterns evoke machinery, cogs, and gears. But it's that furtive power that inspires me to push it out of the domestic shadows and into the big social world. And that's where Sanitary Doily comes in. I entered this into the City of Vancouver's sewer-covered design contest last year on a lark, because I like the idea of a lacy cover-up for the river of human waste beneath. Doilies used to bring respectability to interior spaces, but they don't get the respect they deserve. They've outlived their usefulness, kind of like the way our culture views those who traditionally made them and put them to good use. I was thinking about the dying out of that use, that skill, and those makers, while mixing up thrift store doilies and concrete that resulted in these strange, bony objects. I see doilies everywhere. The rules that go into building a doily can be seen on a grand scale, anywhere you have a central focal point, radiating ribs, and symmetrical pattern, like the ceilings of cathedrals and the grand mosques. We'll be seeing more doily-like structures in the future, like the white lacy towers by renowned architect Zaha Hadid, thanks to high-tech design tools. Doilies are the mark of the maker who does it all indoors, but I wanted to daylight this near-dead skill by using the biggest hook available to turn a 10-inch wide doily pattern into a 10-foot wide version. The actions are the same, but the extreme focus involved in the making becomes a bit of a spectacle. If you zoom in on a doily, it looks like a net. My largest doily-inspired work today is Crossover, the design for the Steveston Scramble Crosswalk in Richmond. Here, the handmade is embedded in the constructed environment, connecting this social space with net mending, an important social activity of the recent past. You know, I don't know anyone who still tackles intricate doily instructions, and these helpful charts are baffling. I wonder if it's even possible for this kind of needlework to take hold again in our distracted daily lives, because this is a devotional skill. It's a discipline and a form of mental endurance. Keeping these long stitch sequences in mind is the real skill, but it requires the kind of singular focus that might go into, say, genome code breaking, or software code making, or these genetic fractals, a bit of virtual genetic engineering by Dutch scientist Henk Mulder. My fixation with fractals keeps me trolling for doilies as a design source. This is one of my large-scale painting series entitled Flow. I named it after my grandma Flo, who relied on doilies to make her spaces respectable. The title also refers to the flow that happens when I'm working with doily patterns, fully immersed in an activity for its own sake. Looking at a virtual genome fractal again, when you zone in on a tiny detail, you can see the whole fractal. This doily-like patterning has the power to draw in your focus, creating a kind of trippy, intimate experience of both microcosm and macrocosm. Working with doily designs and crocheting chain sequences opens up the eyes to fractals in the natural world. Turns out most things in nature are generally fractal. Some of those fractals have been illustrated by models made by crocheting in the round. This idea came from Latvian mathematician and crocheter Daina Tainina. Following a complex pattern in the round puts me in that flow, and that's the perfect condition for playing with ideas. Here, by adding 2 stitches to every 1 stitch in the round, my doily sort of morphs into this crazy, brainy sculpture. This is also known as hyperbolic crochet. Doilies are re-entering the collective psyche, at least among some artists. American performance artist Nick Cave uses found doilies in his sound suits, while Polish artist Ness Boone spray paints the lace on the Israeli-built West Bank wall. I continue to use them for their embedded history, to revisit the worth of this tradition of use-driven mark-making. Because how can all these symbols of creative household protection be reduced to almost no value? And am I still talking about the handmade doilies here or their makers? I've been tangling up the two for a long time. Thank you.